Hello, 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 and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the annual SU Election Forums. My name is Carter Henry, and I'll be your host and facilitator for today. At this forum, we will meet our three candidates running to be the SU president for the 2026-2027 academic year. Voting will take place from March 3rd to March 5th on your student center. Over the course of the next hour, I will be asking the candidates questions about who they are, what they stand for, and what they know about this position so far. Audience members who have questions may speak directly with the candidates after the forum is over from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. at the tables towards the back. Today, I also have an assistant with me who's going to help us keep our time. Victor right there. Each question we have will have a time limit. Candidates, please keep your eyes open. The green paddle means there are 30 seconds remaining, and red means to stop, in which I will verbally interrupt you, and we will move on. Candidates are not permitted to speak over each other, and we will move on once the time is over. All right, candidates, are we ready to go?
Yes.
Let's begin. We have determined the order in advance, and we've determined that Gabriela will be starting us off. So Gabriela, please go ahead and tell us who you are and what your campaign is about. You will have 2 minutes each.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Gabriela Dziegielewska, and I'm running to be your Students' Union president. I'm a double major in chemistry and geophysics, and I have a minor in computer science. Sorry, does anybody hear me? Okay, perfect. Thank you. I'm not running for this position to pad my resume. I'm running because I know what it's like to not be able to afford expenses and tuition. I'm a first-generation student who's had to work through school, commute for hours on end every single week, and take care of my siblings, all while having an academic workload that stole every spare second of my life. I've also been a student under SU presidents who have fought, and I've been a student under SU presidents who've done nothing, and I can tell you from my experience the difference is stark. As VP Academic, I've secured a review of advising offices, I've launched a successful campus-wide academic rights campaign, and I've hunted down policy violations that have cost you money and made your academic life just more miserable, and I'm the only SU executive who's actually updated students in substantive ways through social media regularly throughout my term. As president, I will restore campus life and social connection by overhauling the SU Clubs office so that it's easier for clubs to actually host events. I will reduce hunger on campus by restoring the SU's free breakfast program, and I will fight tuition hikes by mobilizing students to defend the 2% tuition cap that's currently in place, that's unfortunately at a risk of getting lost soon. I do not believe in playing nice with the university and with the province, and I'm running to restore a sense of fight back to the SU. So if you'd like to see an SU that will actually fight for you, please vote Gabriela Dziegielewska for SU president.
Thank you very much, Gabriela. Michael, you have the floor.
My name is Michael Harris. I have been the president of Students for Liberty for 3 years on the University of Calgary campus here, fighting for your individual rights and your liberty here on campus. We have fought to ensure that there was ample support for those that were unfairly prosecuted during the quad protests in 2024. I helped organize a petition that got 20,000 signatures from students across Western Canada that was submitted to Mark Carney to remove the consumer carbon tax. And we've been here on campus fighting authoritarian groups and those that have harassed students, hurt students, or assaulted students. We are here to provide support for you, and I am willing to do that as your president. Some 3 ideas that I have that I wish to accomplish if elected as your president is liberty, transparency, and affordability. How I plan to get liberty on our campus is to support your right to assembly, peaceful assembly, your right to freedom of speech, and your right for religious, like basically being able to speak your religious values without persecution. I want there to be affordability on our campus. I wish to help lower the student fees for students, both from a university level to fight tuition hikes, and also lower the student union fees by balancing our budget and making sure that we have enough money for our programs going forward and not spending it on vanity projects. And number 3, transparency. I want to make sure that your money, whether it's being sent to the university or sent to the student union, is open for you to be able to access down to the cent, so you know where your money is going, and if you don't like it, you can come and complain. If you would like to have me to be your president, vote me, Michael Harris, on March 3rd to March 5th next week. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Now on to Julia.
Good afternoon. My name is Julia Law, and I'm a Design and City Innovation student here at UofC. You might not know what that is, but it's a small program that studies planning and architecture at the School of Architecture, Planning, and Landscape. I've worked part-time my entire degree, unfortunately still live with my parents with probably no hope of moving out because of the housing market, and commute 40 minutes each way every single day to get to campus. I'm running to be your next SU president because I believe that I've been doing good things this year as your vice president external and can continue doing more. This past year, I fought against tuition increases, was one of the few students interviewed by the expert panel that reviewed Alberta post-secondaries, and I secured $10 million in affordable housing funding from the city. I want to keep doing the same. This year, the province should be submitting or rechanging the system to match the recommendations of the expert panel. That report came out in October, and yesterday when the budget came out, we heard that they're just reviewing it some more. It's time for change. The province knows that the system is flawed, and it's time to have an SU president that holds them accountable while they know what they're doing. I can promise you that I'll keep you informed. In fact, this past year I have. As VP External, I regularly posted on social media informing students through informal channels about what was going on in my role. I let students know about the Canadian Alliance of Students Associations and what work they were doing to fight things such as the cuts to Canada student grants. I promise to do the same, and I promise to stay locked in for students because after all, it's the law. Next week, vote for Julia Law for your SU president. Thank you.
Thank you, Julia, and thank you, candidates. We'll now be moving on to the very first round. You will have 2 minutes per question, and we will be moving down in cascading order. We will begin with Gabriela, then Michael, then Julia, and then following cascadingly into the next questions. Okay? So, Gabriela, as president, which advocacy issues are you most excited to work on, and how will you do so in a collaborative way with the vice president portfolios?
The issue that I'm most excited to get my hands on is defending the 2% tuition cap that is currently in place. Obviously, I would have to work on that with the VP External to make sure that we have the same vision, we have the same ideas of what we want to achieve, and collaborate on divvying up the work. In 2023, the SU won the initial tuition cap that is now currently in place by putting a lot of external pressure on the province, by doing aggressive media campaigns, by lobbying every single chance they got, and by organizing students to do a protest. That was an election year, and guess what? This is also an election year. Either this year or next year is when the next provincial election is going to happen, and I think we need to take advantage of the political moment by pushing as hard as we can for students to get what we want. I think over the past little while, the SU has lost its vigor in advocating, and I'm really, really excited to work with the VP External, to work with the SU advocacy staff, to really look at what are all the ways that we can leverage to push back against this government, to push students' message out to the general public, so that it's not just us and students on this campus who are invested in in post-secondary education, but it's also their parents who are voters, it's their neighbors, it's everybody else that goes to the voting booth this election. They know that that post-secondary education is a big issue, and it is on their minds. I'm very excited to look into all the ways we can do that, and hopefully make some magic happen.
Thank you, Gabriela. Moving on to Michael.
The question was about VP External, right?
Vice President portfolios. I can repeat for you if you'd like.
Sure.
As president, which advocacy issues are you most excited to work on, and how will you do so in a collaborative way with the vice president's portfolios?
So one collaborative project that I'm actually really excited for is bring back student club president town halls. The biggest complaint that I've heard from presidents on campus is that they have rarely got a say in how the SU works and how Club Hub works. I've gotten a lot of complaints about cuts to funding, being able to organize events, they're having to wait 2 to 3 weeks able to host an event on campus, and rarely, they usually get about one time a year, where they're able to actually come to the SU and properly complain. I would like to bring regular town hall sessions back. where presidents of all SU clubs can come together to discuss the issues of today, issues that are facing Club Hub, and issues that are facing the campus culture here at the University of Calgary. I'm hoping to bring this back for at least, we're going to aim for at least once a month, but if we can, I'd like to do it bi-weekly, so every 2 weeks. Because at the end of the day, with our basically dead campus culture at this point, we need to revitalize our Club Hub. We ought to make sure that if you have an idea, you can implement it. If you are wanting to create a student association, or if you want to create a society on our campus, you should have the tools to be able to do that. And once you've created it, you should have the place to be able to go and come and complain, come and give suggestions, and come help improve campus life for other students.
Thank you, Michael. Julia, you have the floor.
Yeah, of course. I think one of the things I'm most excited to get my hands on this year is something I've already had my hands on, and it's the 11 recommendations from the expert panel. I know them inside out. I want the province to be held accountable because, as per the minister's mandate letter, he's supposed to look at them and supposed to do something about it. I want to make sure that students are consulted during the process of implementation. There's a new funding framework down the pipeline. They're claiming it's going to be in budget 2027. We need to have students heard so that we can have quality of education going forward and that our education is properly funded province-wide. I also think there is many other things within these 11 recommendations that students can have a say on. They already were interviewed in the first round, and it's time to make sure that when the province is looking at these things, they're talking to the people that it really affects. When the new tuition framework is coming down the pipeline, ensuring that it keeps student tuition predictable and it maintains that tuition doesn't suddenly remarkably spike when it's introduced. I believe that you deserve to have predictability in your financials, and this is something that will potentially provide that. That being said, in the meanwhile, the 2% cap does need to remain, and until they have that tuition framework implemented, it needs to stay there so that students don't see 10, 20, 30% increases. But yeah, I think overall, it's that 11 recommendations. There's change coming to the post-secondary sector, and I want to be one of the students to hold the province to it.
Thank you, Julia. Moving on to the second question. Michael, with over 30,000 diverse undergraduate students on campus, how do you plan to engage and elevate the voices of equity deserving student groups in a meaningful way?
Well, it's the same answer as I gave in the last question that was asked. I think we need to have more student engagement, more club engagement here on campus. I feel like a lot of students, they don't even know who's even running their SU half the time. They don't even know who's representing them. I think there needs to be a better relationship between the student union and students. And that means getting critically engaged with all of our student clubs on campus, getting engaged with all of our student societies here on campus. And I think, like I said previously, that it should be happening at bare minimum once a month, where all these groups come together to be able to discuss the issues of today. Because if we just let it run without students say so, then their opinions go unheard. And of course, you can send emails, you can try to go into the SU office to complain, but if you don't have a collaborative effort, then not every single voice is going to get heard. And not every single club also has the time to be able to go into the SU office to complain. So if we have these meetings, we have these collaborative efforts together to fight back against the provincial government, fight back against the municipal government if they have unfair policies that are affecting students, then this should be a collaborative effort that we can work together with.
Julia, your answer.
Very similarly, I believe collaboration is key in this section. I believe many of these equity deserving groups have organizations that represent them here on campus, many of which are our own students union clubs. I believe there's chances to connect with executive teams. They're keen, they want to talk, they want to tell you what's going on in their lives. They want you to know what you can do to make change and how you can do it thoughtfully. It's about talking to those club presidents. It's about talking to those executive teams so to informally poll members of those organizations. It's also about just being around in the community. A SU exec should be in Mac Hall. They should be at SU events. They should be showing their face here and around campus. The second that you have that face out there, students know who they voted. Students know who is representing them for the next year. And it's important that they know that so that they can come to you and they trust you with information and they trust you with the things that they're going to share with you. So I think above and beyond, it's collaboration, and it's talking to those people. They deserve to be talked to. Everyone deserves to be talked to and heard, and their opinions, thoughts, concerns, they need to be considered in more depth and just all the time.
Gabriela, you're up.
Thank you. There's a saying, nothing about us without us, and I think that we need to really embody that. To no one's surprise, I'm also going to stress communicating with students. So that's establishing relationships with clubs, speaking to students one-on-one, and it's also using SU survey data. We collect demographic information, and so it's a very valuable tool for us to get direct feedback from students about what's most important to them. I think we can push our surveys much further than they go at the moment by sending faculty reps to do class talks on their faculties to promote these surveys and what the purpose of them is. It's posting on Reddit and on Instagram. It's maybe even establishing relationships with professors. But more than just that, it's about not giving an inch to when the province starts to fearmonger again. For example, over the summer, the province mandated universities to implement a sports policy that that targets trans athletes. Something that we did is we collaborated with the Q Center, with the GSA's GSA Squared, which is also their queer advocacy group, and we actually worked on implementing changes to the university's policy so that they were the least harmful version of those policies as possible, so that the trans students on campus who would be affected by it would be protected as much as they can be. I think that's a very important aspect of it, because of course we can talk with people as much as we want, but I think ultimately it's also about putting that talk into practice and to measurable wins for students.
Moving on to the third question. Julia, experience and engagement with UofC executive and senior leadership teams is an integral part of being the SU president. The SU is currently navigating 2 timely agreements with them, on top of the usual business that we share. Different students believe in different tactics in working either with or alongside university leadership. How do you envision your relationship going should you be elected?
Yeah, of course. I believe that working with university leadership is typically an uphill battle. They often don't want to talk to students, they don't want to be in the room with students, et cetera, et cetera. And it's about holding them accountable. When they aren't replying to your emails, you send a follow-up email and then you go knock on that door. You go demand that you meet with them, you show up, and you are there. I think it starts, especially with these 2 agreements, with the renegotiations of Mac Hall. It's about being there. It's about scheduling things far in advance. And when they're canceled, you instantly follow up and ask for a reschedule. When the university is reluctant and doesn't want to work with students, that's when you raise it. That's when you bring it to the media and let them know that students aren't being consulted. That's when you say, hey, students are being left out of the conversation of something that severely impacts them, whether it be tuition and fees, whether it be quality money, any of the things. It's about starting small and then taking it to channels to communicate the issues when they occur. And it's about also picking your battles, recognizing that some issues matter more to students than other issues, but still giving fight to anything and everything that does affect students.
Gabriela, it is your turn.
So I'm the current VP academic, and one of the quirks of the VP academic role is that there's very little you can do in this role if you don't have buy-in from administration. If I want to see any change at this university, I need them to agree to do it. I'm very outspoken. I don't really concede very easily, and I'm quite aggressive in how I pursue these relationships and these dynamics. And despite that, I've been able to very successfully navigate them. I've gotten wins on the things that I've wanted to get wins on, and I didn't have to make concessions to make that happen. I think that this is the kind of vision and the kind of demeanor, let's say, that the president should have. In terms of the 2 agreements, as they relate to Mac Hall, I think that Mac Hall is ours, and will continue to be ours, and I do not think that we should back down in any way or make any concessions that we do not want to make, because these agreements will set the tone for our ownership of the building. I do not want to see anything that chips away at our independence, and I will not let that happen. But more broadly, I've fought with admin a lot, and And despite this, we still have very pleasant, conversations before committee meetings, and everything's great. But I think as long as you're not being unreasonable, they can accept being more aggressive, being more assertive. I've pushed back a lot this year on, for example, paid assignments. I've seen great success with that with faculty administration and arts, and I've also approached SAPL about it, and that was a bit more difficult. But when that happens, you just bring it up the chain. I told the university president to his face that they are failing students in SAPL by not cracking down on the policy violations in the faculty. And what I got out of that meeting was a list of action items that they are going to commit to, that I can follow up on over and over again until they are met.
Thank you very much, Gabriella. We will be moving on. Michael, you have the mic.
You have to be able to pick your battles. You have to know when you have to go up against these people and give them a rose or give them a bazooka. You have to be able to know to fight back, but also be able to negotiate. I'm willing to use any means necessary to get what you need done. Whether that be, first and foremost, showing up, not being avoidant, going to these committee meetings, going and talking with our staff. And also, if that means bringing the media involved, being active with these club president meetings that I would like to bring together, we can organize together to fight. Not just me, but together as a union. Additionally, also bringing in possible legal battles if that's what it requires. But I propose something different as well too. I propose not just fighting the school staff, but going straight to their bosses. I have connections with the Minister of Education, Mr. Demi, and the Minister of Advanced Education, Miles McDougall, and I am on a first-name basis with them. I propose we go to their boss instead, and if there's something that we need to complain about, get done, or change on campus, then we go to the UCP government and actually get it done.
Thank you, Michael. Now for the fourth question. Gabriella. As president, you will serve as a mentor to faculty representatives, and your vice presidents may look to you for direction and advice on critical issues within their portfolio. Can you describe what your approach to leadership is and how you would navigate potential conflict within the organization?
So mentoring my representatives is actually one of my favorite parts of this role. I was not expecting it to be coming into it, but I've really, really enjoyed it. Some people choose to have more formal kind of mentorship relationships. I don't. I tend to go more the route of being more casual and friendly with my reps. And throughout that relationship, I'm able to show that I actually have a good base of knowledge that validates to them that I do give good advice and that there is a reason why they should take my opinions into considerations when they come for advice. I'm, of course, looking to extend the same thing as president. Something that I think is really important, though, is recognizing that faculty representatives and the VPs, they will be in different rooms, in rooms that I'm not in, and they will develop expertise that I won't have as well. And so I think a really big important aspect of mentorship is understanding that it actually goes both ways. I will be learning things from the VPs and from the representatives, just as they will learn things from me.
Michael, you have the floor.
Over the last 4 years that I've been the president of Students for Liberty, our main objective for executives and people who join as a member or volunteer is leadership, is training people to be independent thinkers, independent leaders, so they can advocate for what they wish to push for. And I wish to use that training for the University Student Union as well too. I come in it from a way that I'm not your boss. I'm not here to control you. I'm not here to tell you what you should be doing. I'm here to say, hey, we're a family. This is what we need to do together. And I want your input. And I want to also help you to learn, to be better, and work with you because I want your projects to work. I want your ideas to work because we are all in this together. And if we don't stand together, we stand alone.
Julia, the mic is yours.
Yeah, I, similar to Gabriella, have had to mentor reps this past year, and it is a highlight. It's about watching people grow. It's about watching people learn. It's about watching people who typically wouldn't have these opportunities unless they were in a role like this. I think it starts out with having a friendly demeanor, of which I believe I like to think I have. And it's about setting up those informal things and those formal things. Informally, going out for lunch, taking them for a snack, cheering them up when they're down. It's about also setting up the formal connections. It's about having regular meetings to ask them where they are on their progress, ask them what they're doing, ask them what things have come up, setting up those communication channels so they don't hesitate to contact you when something changes in their faculty. I like to think I've been that person to a lot of people this year beyond my own reps, including other representative students at large. I think that it's important to set those friendly connections and then keep them going. In terms of VPs, I think one of the biggest things that being an exec is you go through, one of the biggest battles is you are likely in your early 20s and this is the first time you are in an office job. And then you're probably battling with ageism. I've battled with ageism this past year. I've been sat in rooms told that I'm way too young for this job and that I'm not good enough. It's about letting them know that I've been through the same things, I know how they feel, and letting them know that they do matter and that they are doing the work and that they're doing a phenomenal job, and then providing them tips as to how to improve when there are those errors. But yeah, I think mentoring is a big thing, and I think it's generally just being friendly.
On to the final question of the first round. Michael, as president, you are often looked at as the face of the organization. You'll be invited to many different events, committees, to speak to the media, and generally to support decision making. Your role will pull you in different directions. Besides advocacy, what are the top priorities that a president should be mindful of in the day-to-day operations?
I think keeping the reputation of the SU is a number one. Making sure that we are not destroying ourselves, keeping our union in good shape, but also strengthening it. Strengthening it with partners, working with CASA and other student unions across the country, and making sure that we have a strong alliance. Like I said before, if we do not stand together, we stand alone, unfortunately. And we have a lot of enemies outside this university that wish to tear down this union, whether it be our provincial government or if it's our municipal government that doesn't want to listen to us. I've been out there, I've been fighting both governments, including the federal government, many times, going down to City Hall, the legislator, or sending petition notes to Mark Carney and Justin Trudeau. I've been out there in the community. You have to be prepared to fight. And if you're not prepared to fight, then we're going to lose. So I just say working with our partners, working with student clubs, working with all students of all stripes, and being prepared to pitch our battles and negotiate when necessary.
Julia, you now have the floor.
Yeah, I think advocacy is the umbrella for everything that the SU does. It feels as if everything falls into it, whether it likes it or not, informally or formally. Formally, you're talking to the government, you're talking to the university, but informally, you're getting your name out there so that you know that you're a reputable source. It's about talking to the media, it's about forming those connections. And I think things that fall underneath that is ensuring that students have quality experience on and off campus so that they can find housing, they can get into their classes, they can pay their tuition, they can do all of those things and more. And then it's also about forming connections and collaborations. We've had a successful year municipally with other student organizations in the city, such as the Students Association of Mount Royal, State Students Association, talking with people, but it's also about having collaboration federally and even provincially, even though we're not a part of an organization. I think most of what the SU does ends up falling under advocacy, and it's the most important thing, but in the day-to-day, it's about ensuring that students feel safe, ensuring that they're getting quality education, making sure that they feel like they belong, and that they feel like they're heard. Because an SU that doesn't do any of those things isn't really doing their job. If an SU sits there and a leader goes, I don't really have anything to do, you have something to do. There's always something going on. There's always an issue on campus, whether unfortunately we like it or not. And it's about having those conversations and continuing collaboration, communication, and all of that fun stuff.
Gabriela, this is your time.
Thank you. Could you repeat the question, actually?
Of course.
Thank you.
As president, you are often looked at as the face of the organization. You'll be invited to many different events, committees, to speak to the media, and generally to support decision making. Your role will pull you in different directions. Besides advocacy, what are the top priorities that a president should be mindful of in the day-to-day operations?
So I think being in this role, it's very easy to get it's very easy to kind of get pulled in a lot of different directions. But I think the guiding question that every exec, not just the president, needs to have in the back of their mind always is, what is the purpose of this, and what value does it bring to us? Maybe an event sounds exciting, but is there actually an opportunity to make a relationship that helps us advocate on anything? Is there anything of value in that? If no, I think that can be skipped. But kind of a larger point is, and I'm sorry to bring down the mood a little bit, but we're kind of seeing year over year our voter turnout is dwindling, and we're seeing a largely apathetic student audience who doesn't really care about us anymore. And I think this is something that we really need to focus on this year. One of my platform goals is overhauling the SU Clubs office so that it's easier for clubs to actually host events on campus. It's not a small thing to be done, but I think these are the kinds of things that we need to be focusing operationally day to day, looking at, okay, where are we failing to communicate our value to students? How can we better convince them that this is an organization that they should care about, that we have earned the right to have their buy-in? I think this is something that we need to be focusing on, because we just can't afford to see less and less students engaged every single year. And I think this should be the overarching theme of the next year.
Thank you very much, candidates. That concludes the first round of the forum. We will now be moving on to the second round, the speed round. As you can see, we have some whiteboards here in which you will have 30 seconds to answer the question. After I finish the question is when those 30 seconds will begin. And you will be writing down the answer on your whiteboard. You'll show me first and then to the audience, okay? In which I will then reveal the many answers that some of these questions could have, okay? Let's begin. The Students' Union President works closely alongside the VP External to advocate on student issues to the municipal, provincial, and federal governments. Name the city councillor, MLA, and MP for the University of Calgary's riding. You can now reveal your answer. The correct answers are Mike Atkinson, MLA, Luann Metz, MP is Corey Hogan. For the second question, what are two of the SU committees that the president chairs? You can now reveal your answer. The correct answers are Quality Money, Cabinet, or the UGRC, University and Government Relations Committee. For the third question, name the two Board of Governors committees that the president sits on. can now reveal your answer. The answers are Budget Committee and Finance and Properties Committee, the FPC. For that fourth question, SU fees are a prominent part of the conversation in each election, despite the fact that they have not been raised since before the year 2000. What is the SU general student fee for one full-time student for one single semester? You can reveal your answer now. The correct answer is $32.50. Michael, can you reveal your answer? Thank you.
That's like the total amount for the SU fees. My bad.
As for the fifth question, as SU president, you and your VP external will be a big advocate for students as part of the TFCC. Can you name two of the positions that also hold membership on this committee? You now reveal your answer. There's a few correct ones. All right, here we go. Provost, the deputy provost, or the VP finance CFO, or the associate VP finance, the vice provost student experience, the registrar, senior directory ancillary services, vice provost planning and resource allocation, vice provost academic strategy, the director active living, the director of athletics, the dean of graduate studies, or the GSA president plus another delegate. For the sixth question, what are the names of the U of C's VP of Digital Transformation and Technology and VP of Alumni and Development, respectively? You can reveal your answer now. The answers are Nipa Chakravarti and Andrea Morris, respectively. For the final question of the speed round, who is the current chair of the CASA, our federal lobbying group, and what does CASA stand for? You can now reveal your answer. The correct answer is Abdul Abbasi, the Canadian Alliance of Students Associations. Current chair. And that concludes the speed round. Moving on to the third round, are rather in-depth questions that will highlight specifically on the platforms that our candidates sit on. We have gone through your platforms and identified key points that we would like you to expand upon or give the voters a clearer understanding of how it might be possible. For this section, as they are a bit more in depth, we're going to give you each 2 minutes. There will be two questions each, all inspired by the same platform that students have access to on the SU website. For this section, we will first ask Gabriela, then Michael, then Julia, and then we will repeat that order. For Gabriela, you are advocating to bring back the SU breakfast program, which the SU originally stopped to introduce the Power Packs, which are available to all students throughout the day. On top of that, the Food Hub now has a breakfast program for students thanks to the lobbying of the SU. Why is bringing it back under the SU banner a priority to you?
We have seen every single year student food insecurity on this campus goes up and up and up. There is more demand of our campus food bank, and yes, there are other resources, but they're not enough. For example, the campus food hub has free soup or very cheap soup once a week, and it has free breakfast, I think, also about once or twice a week. I've had that breakfast before. It was an apple and a peanut butter pack with a piece of bread. It's not enough to actually feed the hungry students on this campus. Why does it have to be under the SU's banner? It doesn't have to be under the SU's banner, but we have done it before. We have the money to pay for it. We have the staff who have the expertise to know how these types of programs should be run and what's the best way to run them. And it's something that we just have full control over and can work on implementing right away. In terms of how that can happen is we can look at our events to see, is there anywhere that we can cut events that maybe don't serve students and to the same level that we would expect them to, or to the level that we would want them to, and take those savings and reinvest it into the breakfast program. There's so many hungry students on this campus. I don't think we should be leaving them behind. I think we should be actively working to improve their experience, to feed them. It is, when you're looking at sky-high youth unemployment rates, when you're looking at tuition going up every single year, I feel like it's a no-brainer that the SU should support the students' kind of most fundamental, basic needs.
Thank you, Gabriela. Michael, in order for a nonprofit to legally exist, they must publish an already balanced budget, which is available on the SU website annually. What specifically do you think needs balancing within the budget? And can you point to any specific line items that you feel are out of control?
My main issue is that politicians, and especially the student union politicians, are career politicians. They want to make a big splash when they come in and become president, and they want to spend the entire budget. They spend the entire budget because that's what they want to do to make their resume more impressive, that they actually went and did all these other different vanity projects or otherwise. My main issue is they only think in that one term. They don't think 4 years or 6 years or heck, even 50 years down the line. I'm someone who believes in financial responsibility, someone who can think, well, I'm not going to be around forever. I'm only going to be here if I get elected till next May. I don't want to give a destroyed budget to my next president. So I believe we should have a heritage fund. If we have money that's left over, we don't need to just spend it wildly on vanity projects. Save it for the next generation. Keep that money, save it. And part of that is also fighting the university as well, because the union is not the only people who like to blow through their budget. It's also the university as well too. They love to give themselves, like the Board of Governors loves to give themselves big $1 million bonuses every single Christmas, in case you guys haven't been paying attention to that. They love to blow money on their own projects. They like to use money to take away power and control away from the university, student union, and give it back to themselves. They like to take that money and give it back to their own government. So I propose not only should there be financial reform within our union, but also financial transparency and reform with our university. And I'd be fighting on the chairs and the quality money programs to make that happen.
Julia, your platform does not mention any priorities for addressing the academic concerns of students, although we know that the academic portfolio hears the highest number of student concerns annually. Can you explain the decision to not focus on any academic issues in your platform?
Yeah, I personally find that a lot of academic issues are emerging. They happen as they happen. It's about meeting with students as they occur and tackling them head on, head first. We've done a lot of work this year in the VP Academic Portfolio with the Student Bill of Rights, and it's about building on that and tackling things as they come up. It's hard to predict what kind of academic challenges are going to be occurring because they change prof to prof, student to student, faculty to faculty. I could sit there and say I want to deal with faculty concerns in my own faculty, SAPL. I could sit there and say I wanted to do something with science, but that being said, things emerge, things change each year. I also find that, yeah, like honestly, a lot of it is it's hard to predict. It's happening. A lot of the things that we are already aware of are things that the SU is already tackling, and they're not new or fresh ideas. So I felt as if I needed to put more of a focus on things that are external, the things that are really hurting students in their day-to-days, youth unemployment, skyrocketing housing prices, food costs, et cetera, because, yeah, pretty much. And also, I was VP External this past year, so a lot of my focus is very external facing.
Back to Gabriela. You have introduced the idea of adding an additional holiday per semester for Muslim and Jewish students. Can you expand on what holidays you would like to see added, and if there are any other faiths that you believe should get an additional holiday in the future?
In terms of what I think should be, what holidays should be off, I don't really think it's up to me to decide. I think that should be decided in collaboration with the Muslim and the Jewish students on campus, and it should reflect their needs and their wants. I could try and throw out a holiday, but I'm not of either one of those faiths. I don't think it makes sense for me to make that decision for everyone. In terms of, sorry, what was the second part of the question?
Are there any other faiths that you believe should get an additional holiday in the future?
Sure. To be quite perfectly honest, I'm not really thinking about this past my term. If Jewish and Muslim students on this campus get an extra day off per semester this year, that will be a great feat. Mostly, I'm looking to lay the foundation for the work for the coming years. I will still try to get it done, though, this year. But when it comes to the other groups on campus, other religious groups on campus, I just don't think it's something that is going to happen for them this year, or maybe even in the next few years at all. So while I would, of course, love to see that, it is something that I've decided to leave to the future executives if it's something that they want to pick up on. That being said, I think that opening up the conversation on this part, on bringing a day off for Jewish students and Muslim students on campus, will then also open up the conversations or open the doors for these conversations down the line to expand it to other groups as well.
Michael, you were hoping to bring back the regular president, town halls, and open forums. Can you share with us what your vision of these monthly events looks like and what will go into planning them and ensuring that they are well attended?
Well, for the first part of my campaign was talking with both students and club presidents across this university. And the biggest complaint that I was told by student presidents was that they didn't have an actual say in how things get done. And so there's a hunger for it. There's a very big hunger for it, for especially any of the arts student clubs on campus, because they want to make a change. We have also the political clubs on campus that also want to wish to make a change. And we have a conference room just sitting right over there. We could very well utilize that for our monthly meetings. And I'd assume there probably would be some presidents that would probably skip out, I'd imagine. But once they see that we have all these art clubs, all these different political clubs coming together to actually help push for change on our campus, push for change in our union, and push for changes outside of our union, then I think more and more will join as they realize that this is an actual tangible way for complaints to be heard. And if it's a way for them to directly reach me together, if they have a complaint about my leadership or the union's leadership or how we should push ourselves forward, then that is something that we should be pursuing. I hope that my two opponents here on this stage, even if I don't win this election, will take up that idea, because I think Club Hub and especially the university campus presidents want more transparency. They want to be able to have a say on how they run their clubs, how they can best help our union. We need to be able to give them that say, and I'm willing to give it.
Julia, you talk about strengthening connections with satellite campuses by hosting and engaging in events meant just for them. With the president's busy schedule, can you share how you plan on carving out time for regular satellite campus visits in a way that works for students there and makes them feel valued?
Yeah, I think it's about, for starters, I recognize that the president has a very busy portfolio, but it's at least showing up once a semester. The president is going to have one day in their semester where they don't have a lot of meetings and they can show up. It's during, there's first week orientations, there's events that these places are hosting. But then after then, it's about ensuring that the faculty reps on these campuses are strong and connected to their community and are willing to host a couple more events here and there and get the word out about the SU. I recognize that there is time in other executive portfolios. So it's not about just getting the president's face out there, it's about getting the 3 VPs. It's otherwise, oftentimes, these satellite campuses don't even know what's going on at the SU. They don't know the services that are provided to them. They don't know any of that. As a student who is now from a satellite campus, I can already see that the knowledge and interest in the SU is dwindling at the School of Architecture, Planning, and Landscape because no one knows what it is. And it's about literally just showing up, and if I can't physically be there, recording a simple video and saying, "Hi SAPL, hi VetMed, hi Foothills, I'm Julia Law and I'm your Students Union president, and here's all that you need to know about the SU," because they can use our services. They can come up here to use the food bank. They can access the SU hardship fund. They can apply for our scholarships, but they don't know that because we aren't there. We have connections even with their staff. In SAPL, we have staff that like the SU. Same goes for VetMed. Same goes for Foothills. It's about tapping into those connections and having the SU actually physically have a presence, whether it's bodily or it's just posters.
We'll now circle back to Gabriela. You promised to reduce the club's event booking time from 3 weeks to 2 weeks. However, 2 weeks is the minimum booking for all bookings within the MacEwan Conference and Events Center. And if clubs get a flood of booking requests, there's not enough time in the day to process them all at once. Beyond just changing the minimum requirement, what else would need to be changed to ensure that this goal can be actualized?
So having talked with a lot of clubs during this entire campaign, I've learned that there's a lot of very specific issues that they are facing. As an exec, I've also learned of issues internally that the SU is trying to deal with. It can be as simple as working out the relationship between the SU Clubs office and MCEC, the SU department that actually books out space here, to make sure that while the Clubs office is processing applications, MCEC isn't just kind of sitting there waiting to hear back from the Clubs office. They can actually jump in and approve the event bookings that need to be approved. Sorry, can you repeat the question? I'm so sorry.
No worries. You promised to reduce the club's event booking time from 3 to 2 weeks. However, 2 weeks is the minimum booking time for all bookings within MacEwan Conference and Event Center. If the clubs get a flood of booking requests, there's not enough time in the day to process them all at once. Beyond just changing the minimum requirement, what else would need to be changed to ensure this goal could be actualized?
Sorry, just to continue then. I think it's about finding a lot of the inefficiencies or a lot of the little policies in the club's manual that make things slower for SU staff to actually engage with these requests. It can be reducing bureaucracy. So now instead of filing an event request and then later a pre-approval for funding, you can combine that into one thing done at the same time. In terms of the time, it is 3 weeks because it's business days. So if it was 2 weeks, it would be 8 business days. But it is not, it is more than that. So it comes out essentially to 3 weeks if you include the weekends. But I think there's a lot of things in the policy and our processes that we can try and consolidate, that we can cut. And I think most importantly, that would of course happen in conversations with the clubs and with the club's
Thank you very much, Gabriela. We will cut you off there. Moving on to Michael. In your platform, you say that students need to have free speech and not, and I quote, fear of the hammer of Edmonton and or Ottawa, end quote. Can you explain what this actually means and how this affects students in their day-to-day lives.
So as we've seen back in 2024, the provincial government does not actually support freedom of speech on this campus. Even if you are coming out with a peaceful demeanor, you come out, have a peaceful protest, peaceful meeting, if you have a political opinion that the federal government disagrees with or the provincial government disagrees with, they will try their best to censor you, to shut you down. And I was a little disappointed by the lack of a response by our student union when that happened. I was also disappointed by the lack of responses when other religious groups, such as the Muslim Student Association and the Christian Student Association, were censored for fighting back against Bill C-9 here on this campus. And so I think our union needs to be able to work together with both student clubs and students on campus here to ensure that your religious protections are upheld, that your right to freedom of speech is upheld if you wish to speak your own mind peacefully, and if you'd like to protest on campus peacefully, then you have the right to do so without fear of getting tear gassed or being sent to prison.
Now on to Julia. A lot of your platform relies on urging other partners or advocating to the university. Many students, including your predecessors, have spent a lot of time advocating, but we all know that advocating for and getting results are two different things. How are you going to translate that lobbying into tangible results for students?
It's about, I said this earlier, it's about picking your battles. There is things that the province is going to refuse to do. There are things that the university is going to refuse to do. But it's recognizing of those things, which things have the most importance, which things are actually going to change, and which things have we been working on. We have momentum on things at the SU. We have momentum on things like youth unemployment asks. We need to continue with those and ensure that that's a consistent conversation. If you're switching up that conversation midway through the year, or even at the start of the year after predecessors have talked about it for years upon years upon years, people are going to look at you sideways and go, what changed? So if things are changing, explaining to them what changed. You know, our attack on asking for more youth and unemployment supports is going to change with the Alberta Youth Employment Incentive and its introduction. It's going to look different. It's about keeping a consistent face and continuously showing up and not dropping off the map when these things change. And then beyond that, I think it's about collaboration. There are certain things that the SU as an organization has been good and driving momentum for, but we need other voices involved in the conversation. So once again, when you look at youth unemployment, you say, who else can I talk to who is impacted by this? There's so many other groups that are impacted by this. It's about working with them. When you look at things like the cuts of Canada student grants, if that goes through, that's a nationwide issue. That's talking to student unions and associations from BC to Nova Scotia to Winnipeg or Manitoba, but everyone. It's about taking different strategies and taking different tactics while still remaining consistent and not switching up the tune.
Thank you very much, Julia, and thank you to our candidates as well. We will now move on to the final question, which will be the same for each one of you. Your final pitch. Tell us, why should the student body vote for you? We'll begin with Gabriela.
Thank you. So when you go to the voting booth, or rather to your phone on the myUofC Calgary portal, there are three options for you. And you can elect a president that will just kind of chug along and not do much more than they have to. You will see your tuition go up without any major opposition from the students' union. The quality of the services on this campus will decline, and you'll struggle to get to graduation. You will have a president who, through not understanding the position that they're running for, will not able to advocate for much change for you. Or you can vote for me, which is, of course, what I want. If you vote for me, you can expect an SU that will come out the gates swinging anytime we need to. You can expect an SU that will mobilize its 30,000 undergraduates so that we are a major political source of power in this province. And you can expect an SU that will fight to improve your student experience on anything from major policy wins with tuition and fees to smaller changes like service improvements. If you want an SU that will fight for you, if you want an SU that will be proud of you, that you can be proud of, please vote Gabriela for SU president.
Thank you very much, Gabriela. Now, moving on to Michael. You have 2 minutes.
I have fought for your rights and your constitutional liberties here on campus for 3 years. If you're wanting to have a student, to have a president that is willing to fight for you, that is willing to fight the government, whether that be federally, municipally, or provincially, whether that be fighting political parties, whether that is wanting to fight to get a good deal or come in swinging, I am your man. I have been out there every single day fighting for your rights. I have spent the majority of 2024 fighting the municipal government to ensure that you have affordable housing here on campus. I spent 2025 running against Pierre Poilievre in Bell River Crowfoot when he came into my riding to ensure that my people had their voice heard. And I didn't waste a single second. And I'm willing to put that same work ethic, that same time into this union and into this university. I'm not expecting to be your boss. I'm not going to be someone here to control you. I'm not here expecting a paycheck or a resume. I want to make sure that we bring common sense to this university and to our union, so that way we have money left over for future generations, we have liberty left over for future generations, and transparency left over for future generations. If you're willing to give me a shot, vote for me, Michael Harris, on March 3rd to March 5th. And I'd just also like to thank the union for allowing me to be able to speak at this forum today. So thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Now moving on to Julia.
I want you to vote for me because I'm the candidate who cares. I'm the candidate who's going to uplift you. I'm the candidate who's not going to take you down because you're too young, because your issues don't matter, because it all does. I've been through what you've been through. I've worked a part-time job through school. I've paid my tuition. I've looked at my loans and gone, what now? I've watched my RESP dry up. I've watched everything happen all at once. I know friends who have been unemployed for months because nowhere is willing to hire a student anymore. I want you to vote me, Julia Law, so I can continue making change on this campus. This past year, I've done so much, and I just want to continue doing more because I have such a passion to improve the student quality of life here and off campus. I secured $10 million for affordable housing. I fought tuition increases, got the international student tuition increase cap down from 10% to 5%. I want to continue putting up that fight. I know the expert panel inside out. I know it's 11 recommendations. I want to continue to be in the conversation and fight for you. I'm locked in for students. I said that last year. I like to think that I still am locked in for students. And I think that I'm there and I'm the candidate you can count on to answer your emails and have a meeting with you and actually be compassionate and care. Students need to be mobilized, but students also need to know who their SU is and know that their SU cares for them throughout their entire degree and make sure that they feel safe, welcome, and appreciated no matter what. So I encourage you next week on your UCalgary student portal to on March 3rd through 5th to vote for Julia Law. It's an easy last name to remember. Law, like a lawyer. Unfortunately, I'm not in law school though. So vote for Julia Law for SU president because I'm still locked in for students. It's the law.
Thank you very much, Julia. And thank you to all of our candidates. And thank you again for coming out to the SU general election forums this week. As a reminder, the ballot will include a referendum question about the future of a Mac Hall expansion. Students will vote to determine the future of Mac Hall, just as they have for more than 60 years. If students vote yes, the SU will begin collecting a temporary phased fee for a Mac Hall redevelopment fund and begin plans for expanded features like more seating and more food options in line with student needs. If students vote no, no additional fee will be collected at this time and no expansion will be planned. Voting days for the referendum will be the same, March 3rd to March 5th through your online student center. You can stop by the election table right here to learn more about the referendum over there. Or head to the SU website to read the question and all the background information before you vote. Speaking of voting, please ensure that you take time to vote next week. These students will be representing you next year, so please ensure that you are using your voice to choose who those people are. If you have any questions for your candidates, please address them at the back tables or reach out to them personally. Candidate platforms and information are available on the SU website, and thank you so very much for joining us. I've been your host, Carter. Bye.